back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of WilkWorld.com, and I am so incredibly grateful that you have taken the time to join me for another great episode. Here at the D-Rate the Hate podcast, we're all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. You know, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. It starts with each of us as an individual. So what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? Making your life a better life starts with individual accountability. How we act, how we react, no matter what happens to us, how we react to it makes the difference. Friends, one of the great things about a bad attitude is we as individuals have the power to change it. One great way to do that, share the D-Rate the Hate podcast. Share it with your network of friends. Get them to share it. Subscribe. Leave us ratings and feedback. Always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's go. Friends, after the recent leak of what now appears to be an imminent overturning of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court, I decided to reach out again to my friend Kevin McGary from Every Black Life Matters. Now, you may recall Kevin McGary joined me in episode 88 of the podcast talking about his organization, Every Black Life Matters, and how they seek to find real justice and real solutions to real problems facing the black community in our country today. Now, with that being said, one of the core principles of Every Black Life Matters is seeking real justice for all those that never get an opportunity to be born, never get an opportunity to have life like you and I. So, real justice for all people from womb to tomb. That is why I asked Kevin back on the show this week for another great conversation talking about Roe versus Wade, what overturning Roe versus Wade actually means, some of the misconceptions and false information and the fear-mongering spread about this overturning of Roe versus Wade, and a lot more. Another great conversation you're not going to want to miss. As always, so grateful that you're here. Let's get right to it.
There he is. Will.
Kevin McGary, how are you, my friend? Welcome back to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. So glad that you decided to join me again.
Yes, sir. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me again. It's great.
Yeah, man, we had such a great conversation back in episode 88 of the D-Rate the Hate podcast, as I remember, sometime around Christmas. And it was just a good conversation. And I knew that I wanted to talk to you again. And then this whole thing with the Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade came up. And I thought the one person I want to talk to is the most pro-life activist person that I know. And I wanted to get you back on the podcast, Kevin. So I'm greatly appreciative that you're back here to talk with me. For those who have not heard of Every BLM, Every Black Life Matters, or has not listened to episode 88 of the D-Rate the Hate podcast, why don't you just give everybody a brief rundown, Kevin, of what Every BLM stands for and a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So when we had the riots in the summer of starting in May of 2020, because of what happened, what we all saw, what happened for 9 minutes and 40 seconds with George Floyd, horrible murder on that. There were a lot of different reactions across the spectrum. So some cities were, kind of peacefully protesting, but all of your major cities, your highly urbanized cities, there were rioting, there were looting, they were violating a lot of people. There was just mass chaos. And so what was concerning for me and my co-founder, Neil Mauman, is that we had seen this and we saw that churches and pastors were getting involved with Black Lives Matter. We thought, wow, this is peculiar. Black Lives Matter said that they only stand for or against white on black police brutality, and they really do nothing else for the community. And they never asserted that they would. And so we thought, well, this is strange. We have so many issues, pervasive issues of Black plight, disproportionate Black plight, and so many other things that organizations could be doing. Why would, first of all, pastors align with Marxist, anti-faith, anti-father, anti-man, anti-family, pretty much you name it. BLM was against it, and certainly not a biblically based organization. And so we thought, well, we when these pastors get home, their emotions are going to calm down a little bit, and they're going to go to the BLM website and they're going to see what BLM actually stands for, Marxists and everything else. And they're going to want a righteous and faithful alternative to stand up for Black life. And we wanted to be that. So we decided to get in the exact same lane, sort of borrow the nomenclature a little bit, except we're going a completely opposite direction. So we stand for Black life from conception to the grave. So if you look at our logo, you'll see those little feet inside the little heart.
Yep, and, very cool.
You'll see the larger foot from conception to adulthood to the grave. You see the tombstone on the other side. So that's what we stand for fundamentally, first and foremost, and because that's the largest, most disproportional, most egregious assault on Black life today here in America. And then number two, we stand for all those other things that you see there: real justice, womb to tomb, real justice from womb to tomb, traditional family, active fatherhoods, free markets, educational choice, all those things. So these are things that are fundamentally American, but a lot of these things are disproportional as it relates to the Black community. So we want to be the conduit to bring about positive change to Blacks within America. Now, some people would say, well, why did you have to borrow any parts of their name? Why, every Black life still, you're being partial. You're saying that you're superior, and that's not it at all. No. Actually, if you believe that every life matters or all life matters, then that's exactly what we're saying. And the reason why I say that is because here's the deal. If you look at every Black life matters and you put TOO on the end, that's our message. Every Black life matters too. And what we mean by that is we would like to matter to the extent that that we are born, given the opportunity to be born at the same rate that other ethnicities are. When Margaret Sanger declared that her number one objective for starting Planned Parenthood was to exterminate the Negro population, her words, her exact words, exterminate the Negro population. She didn't say, Negro and Hispanic, Negro and white, Negro and Asian kids. She said Blacks. And so, unfortunately, there has been a target on the Black community since she made that declaration and since she hatched her Planned Parenthood schemes to do that. And so all we're saying is, look, other ethnicities are born at this rate and Blacks are born at this rate. And we're just saying every Black life matters too. So our statement is a statement of equality to shrink the disproportional aspects of abortion. Yeah. So anyway, so that's longer stories, but that's kind of, how we got involved and what we stand for. I would encourage that if anybody wants to see more or hear more about that narrative, please go to our website. Website is everyblm.com, and you'll get all kinds of resources and all kinds of great information there.
No, you got a lot of great information, a lot of tools that people can use on your website. And that's good stuff. And I've noticed, you're definitely making some ground. You're making some waves. I've seen some of your press releases. You're getting your stuff out there, and people responding to it well. So, I guess some people responding to it well, right? Because
so even BLM, when we encounter any of them, and we know Hawk Newsome, we chopped it up with him for a minute. And, even him, he couldn't say anything about anything bad or disparaging about what we're doing. He says, no, and I
don't see how anybody could, we've seen in recent weeks, since the announcement or the leak, the infamous leak, that came out of the Supreme Court, that there's a almost an imminent now overturning of Roe versus Wade. And, it's a very split. It's one of the most divisive topics of our lifetimes, Kevin. And people are there are some people out there that are apoplectic over the idea that Roe versus Wade is, possibly or very, very possibly at this point going to be overturned. But I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. So, I wanted to talk to you about it and kind of see where you're at on that and what you think may be coming. So with Roe versus Wade, obviously at one point, and I just, for whatever reason, my mind's drawn a blank right now, but from the inception of Roe versus Wade, we've seen a very, very large number of people, number of human beings exterminated, as you said, through the process of abortion. And a lot of those young babies, a lot of those young human beings, or not even young, not even born human beings, never had a chance at life, were exterminated through the process of abortion because of the Roe versus Wade manufactured right through judicial fiat. So now that wrong, in my opinion, I call it wrong, is going to be undone the same way that it was done through judicial fiat. It's the way that the Supreme Court works. It's not an unprecedented thing, as many people would say. But where do you think this is going, Kevin? Because, obviously, one of the primary tenets of every BLM.org, every BLM, every Black Lives Matters, your organization, is the womb to tomb freedoms that every human being deserves.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what you felt, what you thought when you heard this, when the leak first materialized.
Yeah. So we've been anticipating this moment for a long time. Last year, when we had the sort of a clue that they would actually be hearing the Dobbs case, we're preparing for a great outcome on that, especially after they had some witness testimony and testimonies last year. It's if anybody understands the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which are the bedrock of civil liberties and law within America, you can't wrap your minds around why would they have even implemented or allowed Roe v. Wade, because the Declaration of Independence is clear. No man shall be deprived of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, says no man should be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. So that that deprivation of life for the babies is huge. It's just, so we're trying to correct the wrongs, the wrong law, the wrong tenets, the wrong principles, the wrong ideas. And especially now that we've made such great leaps in science, we know that is a life. Now, in the early 1970s, maybe we didn't have the instrumentation that we have right now. And so they really thought, I have no doubt that they earnestly thought it was just a clump of cells. It's early life, but that's not life. But now we know, due to instrumentation and scientific leaps, we can ascertain clearly that life begins at conception. Most all scientists agree with that. Most all. By overwhelming percentages, something like 95 or 98%. So it's overwhelming and unequivocal that life begins at conception. Now, if life begins, then we have to align our laws then that would correspond to giving that life the opportunity that we all enjoy. And so this is just righting the wrongs and starting to correct this illicit path that we've been on for these going on 50 years. So we've been anticipating this moment. We anticipate, we hope that our resource centers are prepared to really compassionately, lovingly take on the additional work and help with adoptions, early childhood development, provide a lot of help for those young ladies that really don't have a way, they don't see a way that they can afford a baby. And that's been one of their excuses in the past, is I'll just have this abortion because I can't afford it right now. I'm hopeful that a lot of these, our resource centers are preparing to provide adoptions, and early childhood support, meaning all of the food and medicines and diapers and everything else for at least the first 9 to 12 months.
Sure.
We need that kind of investment to really help these women that are in, a state. So here's the other thing that I think that we have to remember, and to your point, a lot of people don't understand, is that a strike down of Roe v. Wade is just taking it off of the federal oversight, and it's taking it back to the states. So individual states will have the ability to do whatever they want to do as it relates to abortion.
Yep.
Some states will be aggressively for it, like the state I'm currently in California, and other states will be aggressively against it. Now, here's what, of all of the states, I'm not hearing of any states that are taking abortifacients or any of the day after or anything like that off the shelf. So that means we'll have the ability, people who really are in a predicament, who are not sure whether they're pregnant, who think they may be, they still have those remedies that they can do if they really want or need to. So those types of things will still happen. So it's just outrage. A lot of it, yes, we've ginned up a radical feminist to the degree that they feel this is their fight. This is the fight of their generation, the fight of their lifetime.
Right.
And a lot of these radical feminists are wholly demoralized. They're, ignorant. I don't mean that in a derogatory or disparaging.
Oh yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, they just don't understand what's going to happen. They're afraid.
Well, Kevin, they've been told for so long now that removing a woman's right, which was always a made up right, government doesn't give us rights; they can only protect our rights. So this was a made up right in the first place. But they've been told for so long, and so many people have been told for so long. I mean, for generations now, that, well, as soon as they take away this right, they're going to take away all your rights. You're not going to have birth control. You're not going to have the ability to see the doctor that you want. You're not going to. I mean, I've heard some just completely outlandish hyperbole when it comes to this that says, pretty soon women aren't going to be allowed in the workplace anymore. You're not going to be able to drive. You're not going to be able to leave the house. And that kind of thing right there, Kevin, obviously you gin up fear by doing and saying those kind of things. And we all just know that they're not true. We all know it's hyperbole. We all know that it's done to try and discredit the pro-life movement, when the reality is I think even I can't remember the number, but I think even the most pro-life and certainly the vast majority of pro-life people still believe in birth control. That they're not out to deprive women of pap smears and medical care and choice when it comes to medical procedures. It's simply, we don't want a viable human life to be extinguished before it has an opportunity. I love the point that you made, though, Kevin, because I love the point that you made that we need to transition some of these facilities, some of these organizations into adequate places that people can go for help, go for alternatives. And that's one thing. I mean, I hear it on the radio all the time is, if you're scared, if you're afraid, come to us. We will provide you alternatives to abortion. One of the big problems we've had in this country, as you well know, is the fact that adoption, way, way too expensive, way too cumbersome in all the red tape that you have to go through to try and adopt a child in this country. But the fact is there's a lot of families out there that are more than willing to and have open arms when it comes to adopting children. So that is also just a misnomer that, all these kids are now going to be born into just thin air and nobody's going to take care of them. And, babies are just going to be wandering around the streets with nothing to go or nowhere to go, no food to eat, nothing to do. It's a terrible lie. It really is.
Yep. Yep. So we have a lot of people out there that are afraid, that are deceived, that are grieved, that are demoralized, that really don't know the purpose of abortion in America. So just a little bit of history. Abortion was born out of a movement called the eugenics movement. The eugenics movement was something started by Darwin, Charles Darwin, and his cousin, Francis Galton. Francis Galton loved all of Darwin's theories that enshrine the fact that there is no God and enshrine the fact that there is superior genes and genealogy. And therefore, the pursuit of white supremacy, Aryan supremacy, because those are the best genes, according to Darwin. And therefore, he and Francis Galton are the fathers of eugenics. They started it. Eugenics actually means well born. So basically, people who are well born should be of that superior stock, should have the opportunity to basically restrict others. And anybody who would be deemed to infringe upon that good stock, we need to prevent that, right? And so we have scarcity of resources. We have all these people immigrating all the way through different parts of the world. It started in the early 1900s. So the eugenics movement was started to put a clamp down on this. And they said, look, if we can just get rid of the blacks, we'll start there because they're just coming out of slavery and Reconstruction. Their lives are worthless anyway. Let's just get rid of them. So that's where the eugenics movement focused. And that's where Margaret Sanger said, look, I just want to kill some blacks.
Just want to exterminate them. Yep. Just got to exterminate them. We just got to get rid of them.
So she started. So just for people perspective, because I tell this message all over the country, and I do hear occasionally a little pushback. Well, what about women's health? I say, look, no, lose me with that. Margaret Sanger did not start Planned Parenthood for women's health. She started it. Her business model was, how do we kill blacks to the maximum? That was her model. Then she said, well, we can't hang out a shingle that says kill blacks here. So let's figure out a way that we can get blacks to come show up. Why don't we and actually seem like we're a legitimate organization? Let's do screenings. Let's do exams. Let's do other things. Those things were afterthoughts to sort of round off the purpose, the real purpose, which was really just to kill blacks. Yeah. So to this very day, we have upwards of 90% of all Planned Parenthoods, not in your community, in my community.
No, that's right. That's right.
So 90% in walking distance of urban Black communities. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's just for women's health, like Planned Parenthood asserts, we're just a women's health clinic. Great. We have two organizations that have already done demographic research and is already set up. That would be Target and Walmart.
Sure.
So if you're sincere Planned Parenthood, you would close down those and that are specifically targeted in the Black community and move those clinics where women in general congregate. Oh, sure. And they would come. So until they do that, they're insincere. They're still the eugenics-based organization that they started as. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're at the number one, they're the quintessential ideal of systemic racism.
Sure.
So we hear all of these people hysterical about systemic racism and the need for CRT because systemic racism. And I always ask them if I have the opportunity to confront them. So what's your example of systemic racism? And they try to use things like law enforcement. I say, no. How come you guys never, ever admit that Planned Parenthood is the perfect example? It's the number one example.
Most rock solid example.
Definitively everything, up and down, it fits it. It's perfect.
Yep.
So these people are insincere, these supposed CRT proponent people. They're insincere, they're ideological. It's all leftist progressive pablum that they try to give to our children and grandchildren about, race. And they won't admit that the systemic racism that actually does exist here today.
I heard a very rich comment the other day. You'll get a kick out of this, or probably not get a kick out of it, but somebody said, yeah, Planned Parenthood is the number one provider of birth control products in the country. So technically, they are the organization that prevents more abortions than any other organization in the country. And I thought that is a very, very odd logic circle. That is a very odd logic circle. I mean, I suppose if you put it down on paper and had enough erasers and whatever, you could probably make it make sense. But yeah, the idea that because they're the largest provider of birth control, that they are also the largest proponent against abortion or prevent the most abortion. I don't know, man. When I saw that, I was just like, wow, that is a twisted form of logic. I can't get my mind around it. But no, you're right. You're right, Kevin. The systemic racism thing always falls on deaf ears for me, because you're right. You take an organization that was founded to exterminate blacks before they ever had an opportunity at life, and now you prop it up as some prestigious or just some virtuous organization that's doing a great service for the country. It just, to me, it's bad logic. It does not work. So let's go back real quick to the point that you made earlier, Kevin, when you talked about, Roe versus Wade. Instantly, you're right. The word is ignorant, and there's nothing wrong with the word ignorant. Ignorant just simply means, hey, I don't know. And a lot of times it's, I don't know what I don't know. Right. So a lot of people are ignorant to the fact that Roe versus Wade, again, first of all, the government cannot grant you a right out of thin air. The government can only protect your rights. So by granting a right, the government already overstepped its bounds. It overstepped its authority. Now, Roe versus Wade, again, simply does nothing more than put it back in the states, put it back to the states, to the legislatures of the states, where the people have to confront their constituents, and they simply get a more representative form of government. That means you in California are not going to, it's a guaranteed rock solid fact, Kevin, you living in California will not get the laws by which you want to live when it comes to the pro-life movement. We know that. But there are other states in this country that will. And in doing so, we will now have an opportunity to live in a representative government the way we were designed to live, good, bad, or indifferent. But by Roe versus Wade being overturned, it's not the federal government laying down the hand and saying, you know what? It was legal. Now it's illegal. Live with it. Right. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So again, the federal government is just not going to have jurisdiction over what happens universally and federally across the states. But it's going to give the states the ability then to come up with their own remedies as it relates to abortions or not, and all of the other remedies in between. So each state can decide to make their decisions about whether they're going to have any form, whether they'll have abortion up to a certain period. Some states are already in that vein. They're saying, look, we're going to still allow it up to 15 weeks. Some other states are saying, look, we're going to limit it to, once you're pregnant, we're just not going to allow it at all. And then we have a lot in between. So there's some wiggle room. There's some fudge room in there. All of the states are still selling in their drugstores the other, ways that you could take the life of your baby. So you still go over the counter. You're going to be able to receive these abortifacients and different types of, morning after
pill, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so so hopefully when we move past this, we'll be able to encourage real birth control remedies. There's some young ladies, some girls that really are active and they want to remain active sexually. Maybe an IUD, maybe just make sure that you're going to stay consistent with your birth control pills, whatever it is. But if you're living in those states, you have to come up with a more consistent plan for how to engage in those types of activities. And I think we're resilient. We'll adapt to whatever it is. There's never been a time where Americans can't adapt to a particular law, a particular way of life, whatever it is. We can adapt. So we just have to do the right thing. Let's get the wrong thing off the books, get the right thing on the books. And, society will accommodate, over time, we'll basically adapt to whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, now we'll get a true reflection of what society wants on a local level, the way it's been intended. And the reality is not everybody's going to get what they want. It's just, that's the way that life works, but this really brings it back to a more individual liberty minded way of life, the way that we were supposed to live. And the fact of the matter is no matter how you slice it, no matter which state you live in, by this being overturned, it is going to save lives. There are going to be babies born now that would have not had an opportunity at life before. So and to take this full circle, to take it right back to the whole mindset of the D-Rate the Hate podcast, Kevin, bettering the world one attitude at a time, having a better discourse, being able to break things down to personal accountability. What are your overall thoughts when it comes to being able to interact and have the conversation with those folks right now who, maybe it's one of those that's protesting and throwing fire bombs or they're obviously beyond a civil conversation. But to that person that's standing on the sidewalk outside of a Supreme Court justice's house and screaming at the top of their lungs, disrupting the lives of those people that are just trying to do their jobs, how would you have that conversation and just say, look, I am on one side of this, you are on the other, but we got to have a civil conversation. We've got to get back to a better discourse. And how do we do that?
Well, I think that some people are so brainwashed on this issue, they're unreachable. They're demoralized. In other words, they're devoid of morals. I don't mean demoralized from the sense of resigned. I mean demoralized from the sense of they can't, morals. They're not in touch with them. So that whole frame is gone for them. And so people who are hysterical and shrill about this, you're not going to be able to reach. I think that people that are willing, that are reachable, are those that really have questions, sincere questions, and you can actually have a conversation with them. And the way I do that is, look, I explain how Planned Parenthood started. I explain Margaret Sanger's background. I explain the eugenics movement. I explain what eugenics is. I explain the intentions of eugenics. And I leave it to them. I say, look, so you have a choice. It's binary. You either stand with eugenics or you stand with anti-racism. You stand with actually, you derate the hate by standing on the side of life. And then they say, well, I say, it's binary. There is no excuse. You either stand with eugenics. This is why it was started. This is why it's being pushed. This is why it's being done. You either stand with those people or you stand with people like me.
Okay.
And so when you put it like that and you don't allow them to sort of wiggle out, well, women's healthcare. No, that's not why it was started. And there's a lot of other health centers around the country that do provide great women's health care.
Mm-hmm.
And you could still get that anywhere. No state is going to stop women's health care. So that's
right. That argument falls apart pretty quick.
Yeah. So, but abortuaries, the targeting of life, and especially Black life, which you supposedly, as a progressive leftist, anti-racist person, you like people like me, right? Why would you stand against me?
Right.
So when we could be practical and walk them through and say, look, there's only two choices you have here. You can stand with eugenists, the white supremacist, racist eugenicists, or you can stand with us. That's it. There's no in between.
Yeah.
There's no happy medium. There's no way to sort of break it down this way or that. No.
Well,
you're sincere. You're sincere. If you're not, then you're gonna, try to figure out ways.
Yeah. Well, no, it definitely breaks down for people, Kevin, the how you've come to your, how you've come to your belief. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if a lot of people think about it logically and really look at the reason we are in with organizations like Planned Parenthood, why we're in the position that we're in, I think you're right. I think it is the logical choice. I mean, that's, for me being I'm obviously pro-life now. I make no bones about it. At one point in my life, I was not. And,
Me too.
As I grew up, as I got older, as I thought about things more and realized, greater things, with age comes wisdom. And I think it's the right choice. I think those arguments for it, or for abortion, I think those arguments break down pretty quick, especially once you remove the emotions of the moment from it. And you're right. I think it really does come down to a fairly binary choice. So. Yep. Well, man, I appreciate the work you're doing. Like I said, I get your newsletters. I've seen the articles that you've been putting out, whether it be, standing up against CRT in our education system, fighting for school choice, which is obviously an incredibly important topic when it comes to the betterment of the lives of all people, but specifically Black lives too. It's probably more important in the Black community than almost any other community, just because of the disproportional issues that they face in inner city schools and public school systems.
Exactly.
So yeah, man, I applaud your work there. So good for fighting for the nuclear family. And there's just so much good work being done at everyblm.org. So I encourage people to check it out. Kevin, what do you have coming up? How can people get involved? What would you like to say? Call to action? Anything that you'd like to put out there for me real quick? I think I heard you say something about you do have a book coming up. So let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, so I do have a book coming out. I'm not going to give the name at this point, but it really breaks down. It's going to directly address wokeism.
Okay.
So if you're a wokester, guess what? You'll have something to read to kind of contemplate. This is going to break down where wokeism comes from, what it fundamentally stands for, and all of the people throughout history that's been involved in setting us up for where we are right now, and how sort of corrosive and destructive wokeism is, and then how duplicitous it is, because the people that are wokesters are the main ones that are trying to cancel people because of racism and white supremacy and white nationalism, or whatever they want to call it today. And the number one, the fundamentally, by identifying as being woke, you're the one. You can't not be adopting or embracing racism and white supremacy if you're woke. You'll understand that when you read the book, because again, I'm taking the roots of wokeism and taking it throughout history and bringing it up to today, to the actual woke movement. And so you'll see that connection. And guess what? If you're a Marxist, you're woke. If you're a Marxist was a racist, hateful. Oh, hateful racist,
Very, very.
sexist. He was completely anti. He was virulently anti-God. Oh, terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about raising up a regimen of useful idiots that would be able to be as revolutionaries and spread Marxism and communism around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So guess who that cadre of useful idiots are right now? And I don't mean this with disrespect. I mean it based on the term. See, because Lenin, when he started that term, Vladimir Lenin, when he used the term useful idiots, he says, look, these are people who are ideologically, so ideologically committed to us that their own personal principles and all that stuff, that goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And they become useful idiots because they're not thinking through as they're being sort of ripped and swept into a movement. And so useful idiots is a proper term for a wokester. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they are. I mean, legitimately in, whatever. And so this book is going to address that. And it's going to address what you can do to break that. And so what EBLM is going to be doing, we're going to have training courses and curriculum and certifications for people who would align with our line of thinking as compared to the anti-racist training that's really ideological and progressive and all leftists. If you're not ideologically left or progressive, you're not going to do well in the anti-racism training when it comes to your corporation. You're going to fail. Mm-hmm. You're going to be summarily dismissed, and you're going to be put on a short list to be fired.
Right.
So we have to do something about that. Our curriculum is not ideological at all. It's principled. It's going to deal with the issues of racism, structurally just eviscerate it. And wherever it is, even if it's highly inconvenient for us. So we're not, it's not about a political party or an ideology. It's about, are we sincere about dealing with racism or not? And if we are, this is what we must do. This is how we have to think. This is how we have to look for it. This is how we mitigate it. This is how we, and so we're going to be releasing a online curriculum that allows you to kind of get acclimated with that. And then you can get certified as one of our advocates. And it's going to be in the complete opposite of anti-racism with Kendi and all the people that are
right.
really wokesters pushing racist ideologies like CRT.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you can find all that information on everyblm.org, right? There's going to be updates.
Not yet, but continue to go to the website. We are going to have some announcements. We are going to announce first and foremost to our partners. So if you become a partner, you'll get the heads up on where we are with this. What is it called? What is the book called? Actually, for partners, I'm going to be releasing the book, early release. You'll get a chance to look at it, read it through it, give me your input. So we have a lot of exclusive content for partners. So if you go to our website, become a partner, support us. We're doing the great work. We're doing, work that BLM is not doing. We're certainly not defrauding any communities of anything. We don't have a payroll. None of us are on payroll, so we don't spend money like that. All of the money.
So you mean you guys aren't taking all those donations and going out buying $6 million mansions on the beach and stuff like that?
It's just imagine, it's just unbelievable. With all of these babies that are being slaughtered, it's going to start again when we get into the summer months here in the next month or so. That, Chicago and Memphis and Detroit and New York, we have all these children that are going to be slaughtered by stray bullets.
No, it's true.
And
it's true.
Somebody, BLM had the great opportunity to put some of those monies to help those families when they have this sudden loss and grief of their babies, of their children. And they did nothing.
Just didn't work out that way, did it?
This very day. So.
No, it's sad, man. It's sad when people, under the guise of doing good, they just pad their own pockets and do things like that. It's a travesty. It sucks, and it's hurtful, hurting a lot of people. But you know what? You guys are doing great work. I'm glad you guys do the work that you do. I would love to see the focus on organizations. Every Black Life Matters, as opposed to the BLM movement. So redirect that focus, use it for good, and keep up the good work, my friend. I appreciate what you're doing. And after that book comes out, we'll have to get together again, talk about it a little bit, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. The book should be out maybe by late June. If you're a partner, again, I'm going to give partners a heads up probably in the next week or two, a couple of weeks. So, but anyway, join us, go to the resources, go to the partner site, join us, support us. And we're doing great works. I mean, there's a lot of people coming on board with our messaging. We're making a difference here in America. We're in a vital political season now. The more educated we can get people around the issues that really do matter, the better. So please help us, and we'll continue to do that work.
Good job, Kevin. Well, keep it up, my friend, and God bless, and we will talk again soon.
You bet. Thank you.
Friends, I just want to say again how very, very grateful that I am that you took the time to join me for another D-Rate the Hate podcast episode. Please share us with your friends, share us with your network. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and talk your friends into doing the same. Feedback and ratings, wherever you get your audio, always greatly appreciated. And with that, I will just say get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. Friends, if there was anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, I would love to hear about it. Email me, wilk@wilksworld.com, or hit me up on most social media platforms. With that, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.